number of states already require in their constitution that each budget be balanced. We do not have that at the federal level. It seems to me that it's impossible to defend blind faith that either party, both parties, divided government, one party controlling all three branches, will actually ever result in responsible spending. Do we agree? I mean, no one is seriously going to suggest that left to their own devices, either of these political parties will balance the books or rein in their spending. Do we agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Dr. Ali, do we agree with that?
Well, I think that's a good assumption.
Whatever happens to that in that direction will have to be brought about by the leverage of the people forcing their hand, scaring them even into doing it. So is a balanced budget amendment the right thing to do because it puts an amendment in the Constitution, or is it in fact even more naive because look at the disregard and the disdain for the laws and the Constitution that we see today? I mean, anything you talk about, even a balanced budget amendment, they'll find a way around it.
Always.
I think that you're right. I think that it cuts both ways. Is it a good idea? I think it's a great idea because I believe that it may change the political landscape in such a way as that you can't go out and buy your way in with promises of I'll do this or that for every constituency. But the other side of it is that rules are meant to be broken. And, a scammer and a schemer will always find a way around it. And, most politicians, when they get to that point, I've often believed that once they get a look behind the curtain to see what the Wizard of Oz sees, they're like, heck yeah, I'm staying as long as I can. What is it? What do you need? I'll promise you anything,
I think it's a false sense of, accountability. We put politicians in place to represent the people and to make decisions, but I think you're right. They're always going to find the shortcut to make sure that, because they have to respond to their constituents.
Path of least resistance, baby.
Correct. And so I think that while there is accountability, I think it is this false sense of hope that things are going to get done. And so with the states, I think that maybe some states are more responsible, just like a classroom. There's going to be more states more responsible than others. But I think as a whole, unfortunately, I think we are decent humans, but I think that we also want to find the short way around of things.
Are we all allowed to call you baby or only Robert? I'm just wondering.
Did I? I'm sorry.
I like
that was a non-gender specific
No, hey, I just
reference.
wanted to know.
It's all right.
I just want to know the rules here going in.
I'm all about that. That's cool.
All right.
I'm old. I'm a sexist.
Hey,
what can I
no,
say?
it's all right. It's all right.
As long as you add pancakes with that, I'm all right.
She'll be your baby on this gang of four. John Boehner. I mean, I don't know what to think. On the one hand, on the plus side, the only guy that actually has a plan.
Yep.
Right? On the other hand, he's telling his own members, get your ass in line. Not exactly a leadership technique. You kind of have to have a little more, that might be okay for like middle school football or something, but here's a guy who's probably going to get, no matter how this turns out, he's going to get rolled. He's going to wake up face down in the gutter, not knowing what happened. His name is Mud. People in his own party want him out. 74% of the Tea Party members in one poll say he should not continue as Speaker. Our listeners are saying this morning he should not continue as Speaker. What should happen with John Boehner after all this? I mean, is he really the leader of the opposition if he's not able to lead the opposition?
Yeah, I remember back in last November after the elections, and I was talking with a buddy of mine out in Oregon who was finance director for a Republican congressional candidate who did not make it. But we were talking about Boehner. I said, Boehner's not my guy. I just don't think he's got the chops to get the job done, what's going to need to be done. But you know what? I don't know who is the guy. Is it Eric Cantor? I don't know if he's the guy. The guy I'd like is Paul Ryan, but I don't know that he has...
And he got his ass in line.
Yeah, he did. I don't know that he has the whatever it is the huevos rancheros to get the job done.
Well, isn't it true that in both political parties, the way you become a leader, Dr. Ali, is you have seniority. You wait and wait and wait. You kiss up, you make friends, you make deals, you don't step out of line. So it's a little wonder that when we come to these 11th hour crises, the leaders are really not leaders. They're just coat holders. They're just guys that waited around for their turn. And the people we're enthusiastic about, the people who we catch a glimpse of on cable and we go, wow, there's a really bright guy. They're always in the back. They're not leaders. It'll take them 25 or 30 years to be a leader if they even last that long. So really, we're never going to get the kind of, you know, profiles and courage we say we want with that system. That was a question.
Yeah.
Are you agreeing or just
Well, there is nothing to do.
dumbfounded?
There is nothing to disagree, but the problem is, as Robert said, who is the guy? You know, who can lead?
I guess what I would say is,
what is the person that the entire party is willing to, you know, support him? We don't have anybody.
Anywhere where seniority is the sole determinant of who runs the show,
This is what
you
you
have
get.
mediocrity. Anywhere. I can't think of any place where seniority doesn't equal mediocrity.
Absolutely.
So maybe the answer is, you know, you hold an open election and you let the people who have ideas, who have a spark, who have charisma, who have something.
Right.
These guys have none of that. They're just the guys that waited their turn. I think of people like John McCain and Bob Dole and Harry Reid.
Harry Reid.
In any other setting, these guys would be nowhere. Harry Reid would be in a cubicle in the basement. But because he waited and he didn't make any boo-boos, he
Right.
gets to be the majority leader. It's crazy.
Don't you think that maybe John kind of Banner made he tried. He's trying, you know. I mean, we can't fault the man for trying. At least he said something. But do you think that maybe he's trying to hope that other people will come up to the plate and say
I think
something
what he's
too?
trying to do, though, is the wrong thing, because he's trying to enable the other side to get out of this. It's his job. And with all due respect, Dr. Ali, I know of your concern about default, but it's his job to at least stand in their way, to slow them down from exploding the spending of our government and the reach of our government and the running up of our debt. Now, maybe he doesn't succeed, but instead he seems to see it as his job to help them find a way out of this. Look at the polls. People don't want a way out of this. They want this moment to lead to a real change. They don't want it to just lead to an increase in the debt ceiling. They want to see a fundamental restructuring of government, not a little trimming around the edges. We slow down the rate of growth. They want to see real growth. And none of these plans actually reduces our long-term indebtedness.
Yeah, the problem is, Jack, that you would like to have at least your own party behind the plans that you are coming up with. And if your own party is not behind it, and you know that you don't have the votes to support it, then you know it's just a delaying tactics.
But maybe
You know,
instead of asking them to get in line, maybe he should say, "Gee, if there's this many of them
Maybe
who
I
feel
need
that
to
other
join."
way, maybe I need to get in line with them."
Too many people are playing politics. They're trying to score political points out of this crisis, and they are concerned if they're going to get elected next cycle or not. They are sticking to their own viewpoint and not trying to see as to what is in the best interest of the country going forward. And this is the problem that we have to face, and this is why there is a not full support for either Reed's plan or Boehner plan, that the people are not behind it. And I think we have to keep the politics aside, and we have to do the first thing first, in my opinion, to raise to agree to raise the debt ceiling limit. By the way, the president can on its own raise the debt ceiling limit. If you read the Amendment 14, Section 4, we have no choice but to meet the public debt. That is our constitutional requirement. That no congressman say that we are not going to pay this debt. So,
There's some dispute about whether that language, which was a Reconstruction era
Right.
amendment, actually applies to this situation. As far back as 1935, the Supreme Court said it does not
well,
apply.
then let us clarify whether it does or it doesn't.
But Bill
In my
Clinton's
opinion,
advice
yeah.
was actually
Yeah.
I think Bill Clinton's advice is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton said go ahead and do it under the 14th Amendment,
Right.
because the worst thing that will
Right.
happen is they'll tell you shouldn't have done that. I mean, it's better to ask forgiveness than to ask permission.
And the
And
second
who would know
thing-
better than Bill Clinton?
Yeah, don't ask, don't tell. If you weren't asking to raise it, then perhaps you could have.
I am interested in that 14th Amendment. Let me
Right.
ask you this, though. Is it possible in some senses that the Tea Party has already won? Because this whole discussion now is about cutting government spending, is about cutting indebtedness. And you can just imagine, as recently as a few years ago, they would have blown right by that consideration. A few years ago, this whole thing would have been about how much do we raise taxes to close that gap and get us up to where we need to be. At least the paradigm has shifted, and both parties, even if they're not walking the walk, at least have to talk the talk of cutting spending. I mean, so in a way, Robert, could the Tea Party declare victory?
I think they could. I think they can say we've forced the issue. The outcome of this is that there are no new taxes, so under their moniker Taxed Enough Already, they've achieved their goal.
Plus, they have a record now. They can look at every member of the House and
absolutely.
say, we know who to primary in 2012.
Right, and I think that that is why we see so many of those new freshmen congressmen standing firm. They know they have to go back to these people that elected them to go there and do exactly what they're doing. They have to go back and say, okay, now send me back again. Well, if they just roll over and capitulate, they know they're not going to be able to go back there and continue what they've started. You know, I think this really brings up a whole bigger conversation as we go along. When I think about this, you know, we have a broken model in these entitlements. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security are broken. I mean, they're broken schemes. You know, Social Security is coming up on 100 years old here. It's like 80 years old now. The numbers don't play out. There's not enough people coming in. We had, what, 78 million people born between 1945 and 1965, of which about 30-some million are now just about into retirement. We have not had enough birth rate high enough to support that, so it is a Ponzi scheme at its very core. There's not enough coming up to support those at the top on an inverted pyramid, and it just, folks, it just isn't going to work.
I want to talk some more about this, and in fact we will when we get Congressman Kiko Canseco on the phone. We're also going to talk to our gang about some of the other big stories of the morning and the week. But first we get a headline check from Karen in the newsroom at 10:40 on KTSA.